Tonight, condemnation and concern after the Trump administration considers prosecuting the Federal Reserve Chair.
The president's made it quite clear as Jerome Powell is bad at his job.
An extraordinary criminal investigation and a rare public response.
Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats.
Why even some Republicans say this goes too far. The United States directs its citizens to leave Iran as Donald Trump weighs action, including airstrikes. The growing concern over the deadly crackdown on protesters. And investigations are underway after a wild on-ice brawl. The players just 8 years old.
People were like, all right, where are the parents? Like, are we gonna stop these kids?
What seems to have sparked the violence.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. There is widespread and growing condemnation tonight of the U.S. Justice Department's criminal investigation into the chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve, one many fear isn't so much about legal issues as political ones. Jerome Powell has been refusing to bend to Donald Trump's will for months now, refusing to lower interest rates just because the president asked. Well, tonight, the Fed is independent, but the worry is it won't be for long. It is in charge of monetary policy in the U.S., and it is supposed to make decisions based on data. But as Katie Simpson reports, there's real fear Trump is trying to change that.
The massive renovation of the Federal Reserve's Washington headquarters, now at the center of a controversial criminal investigation, viewed by some as a politically motivated attack on the independent institution.
This unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure.
The investigation is into whether Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell lied to Congress about the project's cost overruns. But Powell says it's really happening because Donald Trump is mad. The Fed didn't cut interest rates as fast as the president wanted.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
My nomination of Jerome Powell.
Trump nominated Powell in 2017, but turned on the Fed chair in his second term.
He's a fool. He's a stupid man. This guy is a numbskull. He keeps the rates too high.
He's got some real mental problems. No, he's something wrong with him.
The White House says Trump did not direct the Justice Department to act.
As for whether or not Jerome Powell is a criminal, that's an answer the Department of Justice is going to have to find out.
Democrats now accuse Trump of seeking control of monetary policy to gain an advantage.
So that he can make political decisions that he thinks will help him rolling into the 2026 election, even if it has disastrous long-term consequences for our economy.
Even some Republicans are angry. Senator Lisa Murkowski called the investigation nothing more than an attempt at coercion. Senator Thom Tillis says he'll oppose all of Trump's nominees until this legal matter is fully resolved. Experts warn this investigation puts the U.S. on a dangerous path.
This has happened in the world before. That's happened in Argentina. It's happening in Venezuela. It's happened in Russia. It's happened in Zimbabwe, and now the United States proudly gets to join that club of economic success stories.
Senator Tillis is also questioning the credibility of the Justice Department for launching this investigation. The DOJ is already under scrutiny for conducting several investigations into Trump's political opponents.
And so, Katie, all of this is happening as Jerome Powell's term as Fed chair is just about to end.
Yeah, Trump will replace him this year and is expected to appoint a loyalist, which could cast even more doubt on whether the White House will respect the independence of the Fed.
All right, that is Katie Simpson in Washington. And tonight, the United States is urging American citizens in Iran to leave immediately as the crackdown on protests continue and as the Trump administration weighs its next move. As Margaret Evans tells us, the Iranian regime says it's open to negotiations, but it's also prepared for war.
These are the images the Iranian regime wants the world to see. Not a leadership cornered and despised by its own people, but one still able to get its base out on the streets. The country's woes and those demonstrating against the regime blamed on outside enemies. agitators shooting people in a bid to draw U.S. President Donald Trump into the fray, according to Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. At present, our security forces have full control in all the cities across the countries, he says. There is also complete intelligence dominance. And with its internet blackout, these are the images the regime is doing everything it can to stop the world from seeing. A makeshift morgue in Tehran, people searching for missing demonstrators and finding them. Rights groups believe at least 500 people have been killed by security forces.
There seem to be dozens of bodies piled on the hallway.
Irina Muradi is with the Kurdish NGO that verified the morgue videos. Her fear also for the living, the detained, including, she says, 26-year-old Irfan Sultani.
Apparently linked to the protest and demonstration, and now he received a death penalty, and the family was informed that they will execute him on Wednesday, in 2 days.
The demonstrations against the regime are now entering their third week, an illustration, say analysts, of the Islamic Republic's vulnerability.
But Adrian, the regime still has the most powerful weapon in its arsenal, fear, and it is clearly using it.
Margaret, a lot can change very quickly, obviously, but where do things stand as of now between the U.S. and Iran?
Well, all eyes on Washington. We are expecting to hear from Donald Trump tomorrow. He's expected to be briefed on his options given his threats to intervene. And we're also hearing feelers from Iran towards Washington, repeated pledges saying, we're ready for war, but we're also ready to negotiate.
All right, the whole world is watching. Thank you. That is Margaret Evans reporting from London. The state of Minnesota and the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul are suing the U.S. government, aiming to keep more ICE agents from surging in the wake of the shooting death of Renee Good.
Donald Trump should know, as long as federal agents are in our city acting unconstitutionally against our neighbors, we will continue to push back with everything we got.
The memorial to Good in Minneapolis continues to grow, added to this morning by Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and his wife. That city has been on edge since Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent on Wednesday, with more frequent clashes between demonstrators and agents. Well, the British government says it will introduce a new law to put an end to a pretty disturbing online trend using AI to turn users' photos into sexually explicit images, some involving children. Nisha Patel explains how it works and Ottawa's response.
For the first time, countries are banning Grok, Elon Musk's artificial intelligence chatbot, accessible through his social media platform X. Pressure has been growing globally after users began prompting Grok to make sexual deepfakes, editing photos that people post to remove their clothing and put them in explicit poses.
It's happening to average people, and not just women, it's also happening to children.
Malaysia and Indonesia have now banned Grok entirely. Britain is also cracking down with a new law that makes it illegal to create intimate images without consent, and for companies to allow that to happen on their platform.
They are not harmless images. They're weapons of abuse. The platforms that host such material must be held accountable, including X.
Musk wrote that the British government was looking for any excuse for censorship.
We've been told for decades now, maybe don't put your pictures online. It's now become very, very readily apparent what can be done with them.
X said it would take action against illegal content by removing it, permanently suspending accounts, and working with local governments and law enforcement as necessary. On New Year's Eve, Julie Yukari posted a photo with her cat that she says was immediately manipulated with Grok.
They decided to ask Grok to remove my clothes and put me in really weird poses and really sexual clothing. And I didn't know this was possible at all.
How did those images make you feel?
I felt violated, really. And I felt really scared. Almost like I felt ashamed.
Last week, the platform turned off its image generator for many users, but paying subscribers still have access. In a statement, the Canadian government says it's using existing enforcement tools to pressure platforms to remove illegal content quickly, and that it's not considering a ban of X. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
In Quebec, a Via Rail train derailed after it crashed into two transport trucks that were parked too close to the tracks. Police say there were 124 people on board heading to Halifax from Quebec City, but no one was hurt. Via Rail says the passengers later boarded buses to take them to their destination. The Transportation Safety Board and the CN Police Service are investigating. Well, CBC News has learned Prime Minister Mark Carney will travel to northern BC to meet with coastal First Nations before his trip to China this week. Tuesday's meeting is expected to focus on major projects in the region. There's strong opposition to the potential oil pipeline, and two First Nations are challenging the federal government in court over a planned liquefied natural gas facility. Those projects complicated by a moratorium on oil tankers along BC's north coast. Later in the hour, we will break down the ban and the impact. Well, the family of a Saskatoon cancer patient is demanding answers and accountability after the man died following a security incident inside his hospital room. Alexander Silberman with what police are revealing about what happened.
A demand for answers from the grieving family of Trevor Dubois.
I just wonder, how did this happen?
The brain cancer patient died suddenly on Friday after an altercation with a hospital security guard.
Why did it have to escalate to death?
The 36-year-old was being treated at Saskatoon's Royal University Hospital. Police say security guards were called to his room when someone reported seeing a firearm. They say security attempted to restrain him, then he became unresponsive and died. Dubois' family say they've been given very little information.
It feels like we're honestly grieving in the dark.
Dubois was a social worker and a member of Muscadet First Nation. The Saskatoon Tribal Council is raising questions of whether systemic racism in hospitals played a role.
In our opinion, he was assaulted and there was a major crime committed that took his life. And that is unacceptable.
Saskatoon police say an imitation firearm, meth, and drug paraphernalia were found in the hospital room. Dubois' family believes the imitation firearm was actually a brightly colored lighter and a cigarette holder like this, shaped like a gun. The security guard was a hospital employee who is now suspended pending an investigation. Violent incidents in Saskatchewan healthcare facilities have been rising in recent years.
Assaults, violent acts, and harassment are the top 5 causes of injuries to healthcare workers.
The Saskatchewan Health Authority says it supports an impartial review and that an outside firm has been hired to look specifically into the use of force, and it remains committed to accountability. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
In Ontario, police have arrested the man they allege helped plan the 2023 gold heist at Pearson Airport.
Once the gold was removed from Air Canada cargo, he helped, we believe, facilitate the sale and get it ultimately out of Canada.
43-year-old Arsalan Chowdhury turned himself in after arriving at Pearson on a flight from Dubai. He's facing 3 charges, including theft over $5,000. The stolen gold bars, valued at over $20 million, is considered the largest gold heist in Canadian history. Well, a U.S. athlete is calling out Canada's Olympic skeleton coach, suggesting his actions have ruined her shot at qualifying for the upcoming Games. Sarah Levitt now on what went down and how the team is responding.
So Katie Eulander, she's struggling for speed at the start.
She's been hurtling down the ice headfirst for more than 20 years. But now American skeleton racer Katie Eulander is accusing Canada of sabotaging her attempt to make it to her 6th Olympic Games.
Without the full points, my Olympic dream is likely crushed. And that's why it hurts so badly.
Team Canada's head coach Joe Cecchini pulled 4 of the women from the North American Cup on Sunday at the last minute. With fewer athletes competing, fewer points were up for grabs, making it more difficult to qualify for the Olympics. Eulander says Cecchini called to say he did it in order to help Canadian racer Jane Channel get enough points to potentially qualify for Milano Cortina.
He said that it was not his responsibility to uplift other nations and help them, and that it was his duty to ensure his athletes would qualify by any means necessary, to paraphrase.
Bobsleigh Canada Skeleton is defending the decision, saying it didn't break any rules and simply chose to rest its athletes. Adding it remains confident that its actions were appropriate, transparent, and aligned with both athlete welfare and the integrity of the sport. But Eulander and Team USA aren't the only ones upset.
This is a unique situation where someone, in this instance, Canada, has made a decision that impacts, well, several countries.
The Danish bobsleigh and skeleton team has called the move dirty skeleton tricks and the opposite of Olympic values. The International Bobsleigh and Skeleton Federation is now investigating.
In the long history of Olympics, and seeing how, teams manipulate things and put different, strength of teams in there sometimes to try to qualify more. This is just the way the game is played.
Canada's skeleton team should be officially announced next week, with the Olympics set to begin on February 6th. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
A winter storm is tearing through Newfoundland and Labrador, with high winds ripping the roof off an arena in Port aux Basques. There it goes! Warnings are in effect for much of the province, with wind gusts as high as 140 kilometers an hour along the coast, and with snow expected, officials are asking residents to stay inside. Thousands are also without power from that storm. Well, an Ontario man accused of laundering money for alleged drug kingpin Ryan Wedding appeared in court today, but as Thomas Daig tells us, the case highlights the threat Wedding still poses even on the run.
With former associates and rivals turning up dead and dozens of murders linked to Ryan Wedding, police warn the alleged drug lord still poses a threat, even while on the run, with a $15 million bounty on his head.
His network remains a threat for Canadian public safety.
In a Toronto court on Monday, a judge ordered a publication ban on the names of proposed sureties fearing for their lives. Any family or friends offering to supervise alleged Wedding accomplice Roland Sokolovsky, who's asking to be released on bail. A former professional poker player, Sokolovsky is accused of acting as Wedding's bookkeeper and using cryptocurrency to launder drug money. The judge writing Wedding's network has intimidated potential enemies by killing their associates and family members.
He is responsible for engineering a narco-trafficking and narco-terrorism program that we have not seen in a long time.
U.S. authorities say Wedding relies on a network of hitmen trained at this secret location to kill rivals, including this Montreal-born former drug trafficker turned FBI informant, shot dead in Colombia by a hit squad, all of them still unidentified. According to this profile in Rolling Stone magazine, authorities are closing in on the Olympian-turned-drug kingpin, seemingly somewhere in Mexico.
Indicators are they know where he is, and they're simply waiting for the right conditions to effectuate an arrest.
The RCMP insists it's only a matter of time before Wedding is captured. A trial for his other associates was set to begin next month in California, but has now been rescheduled for November. Authorities hope Wedding is in custody by then. Thomas Daig, CBC News, Toronto.
Multiple investigations have been launched after a hockey brawl involving 8-year-olds.
Some parents were upset, some parents thought it was great.
How the chaos was allowed to unfold. A new study shedding light on drinking habits in Ontario.
The point is I'm mindfully consuming.
Where trends are heading. And paying tribute to a superfan.
I'm sure he's looking down and just overwhelmed.
We're back in 2. Canadian tennis star Milos Raonic has announced his retirement. Raonic is widely regarded as one of Canada's best tennis players, ranking as high as the world number 3 in men's singles. In a social media post, the 35-year-old Raonic says he feels lucky he got to live out and fulfill his dreams. Well, several investigations are underway tonight after a stunning on-ice brawl at an AHL game this weekend in Pennsylvania. The players, just 8 years old. As Cameron McIntosh tells us, it's prompted questions about how this started and why it took so long for the grown-ups to intervene.
It seems to have started when one of these 8-year-old Mite players shot a puck into his own goal.
It was only like 2 kids fighting at once, and then the team decided to protect their teammate, and then it all started into a full line brawl.
Photographer Leah Hollenbach shot this video at a Hershey Bears American Hockey League game Saturday night, where one team of 8-year-olds were supposed to be playing each other during intermission.
The fan base was going nuts for these kids fighting.
At least until it got to this.
The goaltender going up and pushing these kids down. That's kind of like people were like, all right, where are the parents? Like, are we going to stop these kids?
Just a few weeks ago at a Bears game, a couple of kids started hitting and pushing. It went viral.
So that to me tells me that somebody at the lower level thought, oh, this is cute, let's do this. People liked it the first time.
Now it's gone viral again. In a statement, the Hershey Bears said the fighting did not reflect the values of the sport, that they only provide the ice, adding the team's coaches direct and supervise play on the ice. But the only adult on the ice appears to have been Hershey's mascot on the bottom of the screen, skating and watching.
The coaches were not on the ice, but we had Coco the Bear on the ice.
The team's hockey association and league say they are both investigating.
He's going after Lindgren.
Fighting in pro hockey has dropped dramatically in recent years, less than a fight per game. USA Hockey and Hockey Canada forbid it in minor hockey. At least at first, these fans didn't seem to mind 8-year-olds doing it.
So when you hear the crowd responding, that's rewarding them. So that's telling them that they're engaging in something that they like to see.
Some parents were upset. Some parents thought it was great.
All of it now under investigation. There are no reports of any of the kids being hurt. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Federal support for a potential new pipeline is renewing the debate over a BC oil tanker ban.
What is the difference between the vessels that are moving now and oil tankers?
There's really none.
What supporters and opponents are getting wrong. And an exiled Iranian prince pushing for regime change.
Many fear that his attitude and his supporters are not truly democratic.
Just who is Reza Pahlavi? The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
I love that. This is right up my alley. That means I've been doing it right all along.
Want to get the most out of CBC News? Use the app or cbcnews.ca for live breaking news on the stories that matter to you, whether it's local, national, or around the world. Turn to CBC News.
So dry January is in full swing, but new research shows Canadians are drinking more frequently than they did before the pandemic. Jamie Strachan now with more on the troubling trends and the health impacts.
Got the sweet notes in there.
Name a cocktail and Gail Lynch can likely make it. Booze free.
So I'm making a dark and stormy, and you know dark and stormy is rum. It can't be because there's no alcohol. So I'm trying to recreate the flavors.
The owner of one of Toronto's only alcohol-free bars, she says her typical clients are cutting back.
They're saying, I'd like to live a life where I'm taking care of my body.
A new study offers a window into the drinking habits of more than 3,000 Ontarians and confirms some of what Lynch is seeing. Overall, the percentage of adults who've had a drink in the past year is down.
There's a slight decrease in the number of people who are drinking alcohol. I do hear that out in social settings, that people are making those reductions.
But troubling trends persist. Binge drinking, 5 or more drinks on a single occasion weekly, is slightly up, along with people drinking daily. And symptoms related to high alcohol dependence are higher than before the pandemic. Things like liver disease and cancer, but also
saying things you wouldn't want to say, getting into arguments, getting into physical fights. legal issues.
The study doesn't fully account for increased availability of alcohol in Ontario, but this expert says it's bad for problem drinkers.
Having alcohol more available to consumers in the same way that we know, lighting a match to a fire has known consequences.
But in Ontario and across the country, there's an effort by many to drink less.
This is
nearly halfway through dry January. Lynch is seeing it firsthand.
I think folks are saying, no, don't judge me. I may not do it 100%. And maybe my dry January is the first 2 weeks or the first and the last week. The point is I'm mindfully consuming.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Nearly halfway through dry January, she hopes more people keep it going.
And that ginger comes in at the end.
At the end, yes.
Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Defiant protesters in Iran denounce their government, while the former Shah's son sends encouragement from afar.
He has the international character to be an envoy of change.
Do Iranians want Reza Pahlavi? But first,
we need to do everything we can to keep the crude oil out of those areas.
the Prime Minister visits BC's coastal First Nations, where pipeline dreams clash with the reality of environmental law. Ahead of a Tuesday meeting between Mark Carney and First Nations leaders, Lindsay Duncombe breaks down how the current ban on tankers works and where navigating the facts can get a little murky.
Getting rid of the tanker ban on British Columbia's north coast, a catastrophic danger?
There is no chance on God's green earth that there's ever going to be an oil tanker up the BC north coast.
Or the country's best chance at economic survival?
We need to override the discriminatory anti-Canada ban on shipping Canadian energy overseas.
The reality is a lot more complicated than the sound bites, and some argue there's a middle ground, a way to control risk and make cash.
This is not just a simple yes or no gate going down.
It happens every day, sometimes twice. Massive oil tankers move Canadian crude from Burnaby, British Columbia to international markets. Traffic like this is not allowed here. BC's pristine northern coastline is protected by what's known as the tanker ban.
The Prime Minister and Alberta's Premier signed a new agreement.
Some worry that protection could go away now that Ottawa and Alberta have signed a deal that might mean a new oil pipeline to BC. If that happens, tankers would be needed to ship the oil. The Memorandum of Understanding opens that door, saying if an Alberta pipeline is ultimately approved, Canada confirms it will enable the export of bitumen from a strategic deep-water port to Asian markets, setting up a potential confrontation with coastal First Nations that don't want tankers.
It is extremely dangerous, extremely risky. We need to do everything we can to keep the crude oil out of those areas.
Here's the thing. There's not just one tanker ban. There's actually two different sets of restrictions. And just because tankers aren't allowed doesn't mean vessels, some carrying dangerous goods, aren't navigating those waters all the time. And to make it even more confusing, some of what politicians are saying on both sides isn't true.
This is a sacred coast.
To help explain it all, we reached out to Joe Spears. He studies, teaches, and consults on marine law.
People are just too emotional, going to the extremes?
Well, we've got a lot of people talking about marine risk that have no background in marine risk.
This is the area we're talking about, between the northern tip of Vancouver Island and Alaska. There are two deep water ports, Kitimat and Prince Rupert. To get to them, vessels have to navigate either the Dixon Entrance or the Hecate Strait. This line here is called the Voluntary Exclusion Zone. Oil tankers going back and forth between Alaska and refineries in the United States stay west, about 100 kilometers off Haida Gwaii and 40 kilometers from Vancouver Island. Negotiations started all the way back in the 1970s, led by former Federal Environment Minister David Anderson.
Really basically arguing
against the dangers to the BC shore of oil spills, aren't you?
Oh, this is very true indeed. That's the basic guts of our case.
The voluntary exclusion zone was officially established in 1985 and remains in place to this day.
So that if a tanker is broken down and is drifting, there's enough time to get some tugs out to stop it.
In 2019, the Trudeau government went further, passing the Tanker Moratorium Act. It means inside this line, tankers carrying more than 12,500 metric tons of oil can't stop.
So the Tanker Moratorium Act basically doesn't allow tankers to anchor or discharge or load cargo in this area that you've got circled here in red, essentially.
So, those big oil tankers are blocked from Canada's northwest coast on two fronts. The 2019 moratorium says they can't come into port, and the 1985 exclusion zone says the American ones need to pass 100 kilometers to the west. No large oil tankers from any country navigate this part of the coast. That's what some politicians are getting wrong.
As we speak, the U.S. crude oil tanker California is traveling from Tacoma to Alaska along that west coast. Why are the Liberals keeping in a law that prevents Canada from exporting our oil while U.S. tankers travel through the exact same place?
So apparently it's safe when the Americans transport oil through those same waters, but not when Canadians do it.
So when politicians say there are already tankers going through to Alaska, that's only true on the outside.
Correct.
No other tankers are allowed through the BC Inside Passage.
However, oil does move closer to the coast on smaller vessels. That's because many coastal communities need fuel for power. The federal government says in 2025, there were approximately 180 fuel barges transiting in or out of northern British Columbia.
They're essentially barges. They go up through these inside waters because it's quite rough off here in the wintertime especially.
Prince Rupert traffic, Nathan East Stewart, good morning. We have run aground here.
It can be dangerous. Back in 2016, an American tug and fuel barge was navigating near Bella Bella when it hit ground. Thankfully, the barge was empty, but the tug sank.
Using their small boats, members of the nearby Halsek Nation tried to push the enormous vessels in a futile attempt to save the shoreline.
Tens of thousands of liters of fuel and lubricant from the tug spilled into the ocean. People who don't want to see tankers here saw that as a warning.
It's just unfathomable to think they would allow tankers carrying far more harmful petroleum products.
In between Haida Gwaii and the west-northwest coast of British Columbia is the most dangerous body of water in Canada.
But supporters of the tanker ban aren't getting all their facts right either. Take Green Party leader Elizabeth May describing the Hecate Strait.
As I mentioned, not just the most dangerous body of water in Canada, the fourth most dangerous body of water on the planet.
We wanted to fact check that. The only place we could find reference to the quote is in this 1999 Marine Weather Hazards Manual from Environment Canada. It reads, "It has been said that the Hecate Strait is the fourth most dangerous body of water in the world." We asked Environment Canada for the source of that quote. It directed us to Transport Canada. Officials there didn't know the source and couldn't confirm it.
The reality is, huge vessels do navigate both the Hecate Strait and the Dixon Entrance all the time. There are cruise ships in the summer. From Prince Rupert, container ships move grain, logs, even chemicals. From Kitimat, liquefied natural gas is exported on tankers to Asia.
What is the difference between the vessels that are moving now and oil tankers?
There's really none. I mean, other than that they're carrying a cargo that's perceived to be a pollutant, but there's lots of dangerous goods, other kinds of chemicals.
But for many, that cargo, crude oil, changes any assessment of risk.
An oil tanker will spill into the marine environment, polluting everything it touches.
Eugene Kung is an environmental lawyer.
When an LNG tanker spills, of course it's still a disaster in terms of the atmosphere and emissions, but in terms of pollution in the ocean, it's much less impactful from a crude oil spill.
Especially, he says, the kind of crude coming from Alberta. In order to move thick bitumen through pipelines, companies dilute it with chemicals.
So we have this huge mystery sludge mixture coming through. We know that it's more likely going to sink and be impossible to clean up. We still cannot forget the Exxon Valdez spill, which still has oil on the shores of Alaska.
Among their questions will be why the Exxon Valdez was so far off course.
That spill, 36 years ago, looms over today's tanker debate. Hundreds of thousands of barrels of Alaska crude gushing into remote Prince William Sound. Lasting devastation no one wants to see repeated. Much has changed since then. Tankers are double-hulled, an extra layer of protection against spills. There's improved navigation, including tugs and pilots, and tougher rules. Still, Kung says, not worth the risk.
But that would be like saying that, because my car has ABS brakes, that I don't have to wear a seatbelt anymore. Like, the magnitude of risk that we're talking about, which is likelihood times impact. When you have a huge impact, like a huge oil tanker spilling on a pristine ecosystem, that's a really big problem.
And we need to sort of look at this in a more logical way of looking at risk.
Joe Spears says people should be studying and debating that risk right now.
Canada's in the driver's seat on this, and so are the First Nations. Let's look at it in a systematic way versus restricting potentially our economic future.
It may be, when all the analysis is done, when the economics are weighed against the dangers, coastal nations, Canadians, will ultimately say no. Keep the crude oil away. But it is tough to make any informed decision in a sea of misleading sound bites.
The Prime Minister is traveling to Prince Rupert tomorrow, Adrian. He's going to be meeting with leaders of the coastal nations. Those are nations that don't want to see tankers on the coast, so it will be interesting to see what comes out of that.
Indeed. Well, Lindsay, could the oil be shipped from anywhere else on BC's coast?
It could be possible to expand the TMX pipeline, increasing the oil that comes out of Burnaby, BC. The BC Premier supports that, but Alberta would like to see oil exported from ports both in the north and the south of the province.
All right, thanks for this. That's Lindsay Duncombe in Vancouver. Coming up, critics push back on suggestions of replacing Iran's theocratic government with the son of the country's last Shah.
His father and his grandfather both established a very brutal reign.
Why monarchy may not work. Next.
What a strange world we live in.
You ever wonder what your dog is thinking?
When you're in their presence, you feel awe.
How much is too much?
Their slowness is actually their superpower.
That is mind-blowing.
As anti-government protesters flood the streets across Iran, they are being encouraged from afar by Reza Pahlavi, the son of Iran's last Shah.
The goal is to prepare to seize city centers and hold them.
But what role could Pahlavi play in the country's future?
He is the true king of Iran.
Ashley Fraser breaks down what we know about Reza Pahlavi and whether most Iranians really want to replace a theocracy with a monarchy.
Anti-regime protesters are chanting Pahlavi will return, calling for the return of Iran's monarchy. Reza Pahlavi is the eldest son of Iran's last Shah, and he's been in exile for nearly 50 years after his father and Iran's monarchy was overthrown in the Islamic Revolution in 1979. Nassim Nurizi studies resistance movements.
Pahlavi's kind of like has this romanticized, sentimentalized notion of there was this past that we really liked and we need to go to that.
So what role is Reza Pahlavi playing in these protests? Well, for years, Pahlavi has called for change in the country. He's done this particularly in times of unrest, like the 2022 protests over the death of Mahsa Amini, who died in the custody of Iran's morality police after being arrested for allegedly not wearing her headscarf properly. But this time he sent out messages over social media, and he's told Iranians that he is ready to lead a transition. In a recent op-ed in the Washington Post, he wrote, and I quote, "I have therefore stepped forward to lead and serve in that capacity, not as a ruler in waiting, but as the steward of a national transition to democracy." But it's not as simple as that. It's hard to gauge exactly how much support Pahlavi has. And as Maral Karimi says, he's widely seen as a divisive figure.
You have to understand his legacy. His father and his grandfather both established a very brutal reign. Many people who are alive and well today remember those times. Many people don't think that going back to a monarchy is viable in 2026.
But according to Iranian security and defense expert Farzin Nadimi, some supporters view his family's legacy in a more positive light.
Both Prince Reza Pahlavi's father and grandfather initiated and continued westernization of Iranians, very traditional Iranian societies. They built up infrastructure, they built up universities. So there are a lot of supporters within the older generations of Iranians who remember, who have nostalgic feelings of that era.
And for young people in support of Pahlavi, Nadimi says he represents a high-profile alternative to the current regime.
He has the character and he has the international character to be an envoy of change in Iran.
But many worry his beliefs are not suitable to lead the country.
Many fear that his attitude and those around him and his supporters are not truly democratic. He has flip-flopped oftentimes on his political position. He has even gone as far as supporting and encouraging attacks on Iranian soil.
Narizi believes that he is far from an ideal candidate, but the lack of alternatives means he is garnering a lot of attention.
I think at the end of the day, it comes back to saying, all right, what is the thing that I can lean on these days that is, clean and looks far beyond, far different from the current establishment that is on the ground. So I see a lot of psychological factors in this as well.
Now, Reza Pahlavi says he's now planning his return to Iran, saying he wants to be there for what he calls the revolution's victory. So here's another story we're working on here at the National, a look inside one of Canada's most dangerous transit systems.
City Police, wake up!
So this is one of the most dangerous transit systems in the country in Edmonton here. We've been tracking the rise of violence across the country here. It's seen a huge increase in the last 10 years. What we're trying to figure out right now is who's committing these crimes, who's causing this violence.
Right now you're under arrest for the warrant, you understand?
Fez Gallagher was banned for 2 years for a robbery offense, so banned on transit.
We've been here for about 20 minutes already. Police have made 3 arrests. 2 of those people are not supposed to be on transit, they're prohibited from being here. All the people you've encountered, do you recognize them?
Oh yeah, with the exception of maybe one, they're all frequent flyers in the system.
You can catch Eric's investigative ride-along through Edmonton's transit system Tuesday, right here on the National. Well, coming up, a Toronto Maple Leaf honors a late fan.
Made him feel like he wasn't just a cart guy on a shift at Loblaws.
His tribute next in our moment. This is Toronto Maple Leafs forward Bobby McMahon walking into a recent game wearing a Loblaws Superstore vest. So why did he do that? He did that to honor Kevin Wilson, a Leafs superfan who worked at one of the stores where McMahon shops. Well, Kevin Wilson passed away last week, and now McMahon's tribute makes our moment.
What a fantastic gesture.
I know how excited Kevin got whenever Bobby was in the store. He made him feel like he wasn't just a cart guy on a shift at Loblaws. To pay tribute, Bobby put on his Loblaws work vest, entering the game, wearing his vest, brought his spirit, a piece of his aura, which was beautiful, into the Leafs locker room.
Go Leafs, go!
Kevin legitimately was one of the biggest, most die-hard fanatic supporters in Leaf Nation. When Bobby would come into the Loblaws, Kevin would talk to him. Bobby McMahon always gave him time. I'm sure he's looking down and just overwhelmed. The hockey community is a very, very special community, and we always have each other's backs. Bobby McMahon's gesture is a beautiful bridging of the gap between players and fans.
So Kevin used to always spread a little Maple Leaf love. If the team was playing, he was always wearing that jersey when he was at work. If he had to work over the course of the game, he made sure to record it. He tried to never miss a single one. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.